And here we go. Hello, everybody. Today we're doing the next segment on SEO Help, which is the book by David Amerland that was written a number of years back. David is a very well-known and accomplished author, consultant, analyst. I mean, many things David does. And now that he's getting ready to release his next book, we're still talking about the older book, and now we're going to be covering today chapter 15, which is about what's called Google My Business, which is basically a service that Google is providing for local businesses to be able to be more visible, to explain to Google in a digital way what the business is about, so business can see how well they're doing. Anyway, we'll go into details about that, but today we're going to talk about Google My Business, which is chapter 15 of the book. So before I get going on some other stuff, let's say hello to David, the author of SEO Help. Hello, David.
Hi, Oleg. Hi, how are you?
Doing good, thank you. How are you?
Good. I'm good. Getting to the end of the week.
Excellent. David is a little tired today, so please don't harass him with any kind of complicated questions today.
No, fire away. Don't do.
Yeah, just keep it to SEO. But the thing that I wanted to mention is that this SEO Help book, first I want to talk about that. It's an extremely useful book for anybody in business who wants to be found online. It's the easiest way to put it. If you want to have something that will help you be better positioned online, be more visible online, you have to do SEO, which is search engine optimization. And David's book is both relatively small. It's not, War and Peace type material. At the same time, it's broken into 20 chapters, what he calls 20 steps. And then each chapter at the end has these 10 questions and 10, it's basically, it's like a little workbook where it's asking you some questions. You need to think about some stuff, strategize some stuff to help you kind of guide you along the process. So it's not like constantly learning experience and then, oh my God, I got to know all this stuff. You don't. You need to go step at a time, follow directions, and then answer these questions. And the questions, of course, are very pertinent to your business. So for every business, it's going to be different. That's why, if somebody tells you here's a definitive book on SEO, there's no such thing, because there's different businesses. They have different approaches. There's different ways to skin the cat, so to speak. But in this particular case, the nice thing about we're not going to be doing anything bad to cats. David has this beautiful cat, Nike. We're not doing anything bad to cats. Yes, no. And so the idea with SEO then is to, not with SEO, but in SEO Help book specifically, it helps you to create an organizational and structural document, if you will, that will help you take specific steps for your business. And so those are the 20 chapters in the book, and then we're doing a hangout for each chapter. One of the things that we did a while back, we put together a tool that helps you keep track of all the stuff, because there's, like I said, 10 questions, 10 steps, I should say, of action for each chapter, 20 chapters. You got 200 things that you need to be working on. And obviously it can get a little overwhelming. So we have an online tool that helps you. And all of this information is in SEO Help community, so you can get the links and see how to do it and all of that. So no problem there. But one thing I wanted to stress today is we also have a little poll that we did a while back showing where people are at in terms of what they're doing. And this is a little bit of an area of concern here. Hopefully David can help a little bit with that. One of the things that I noticed looking at this, and I'm not going to bring it up right now, but basically it's just polls showing where you are in the 20 chapter sequence. 40% of people that responded, and I think there were I don't remember, around 50 people or so responded so far, indicated that they're on step 1 through 5. So there's ranges of steps. A lot fewer people are in the next category next, but one of the most disturbing things that definitely should be fixed is 30% of people who responded say that they have not purchased the book yet. And of course, that's a cardinal sin. Anything you do SEO related is not going to work until you buy the book. So you have to go and buy the book at Amazon or davidamerland.com. It's called SEO Help. SEO Help, that's the name of the book. And you can easily find it on David's site or on Amazon. And you need to get the book to get started. Listening to these hangouts is wonderful, but you're not going to get it's too much. I mean, we're spending an hour for each chapter, so we already have over 15 hours of time that we recorded, and it's like, you know, you need to take a vacation just to listen to all these hangouts. So the idea is get the book so you can follow along, because David adds a lot of really valuable information to go with the book in these hangouts, but you still need to get the book. So if you don't have the book, if you're part of 30%, go get the book. Okay, that's the first thing. Second thing is, please download this tool. You know, it's free. The tool doesn't cost anything. And make sure you start going on it, because if you're diligently reading the book and then you're diligently filling out the information, you know, on the companion tool, and if you're even diligently listening to all these hangouts, you're not going to accomplish anything until you actually do something. Okay, so you have to take, you know, looking at this chart, at this poll, and seeing how many people start and they just kind of let it go, that you're not going to get the results that the book can actually deliver to you unless you go from beginning to end, unless you implement all these different steps. So I just wanted to kind of harp on everybody to take action if you're serious about being better, in better position in terms of being found online. Then SEO is definitely going to be your friend. And if you want to do SEO in a very methodical and relatively easy way, you could go hire somebody paying $500 to several $1,000s a month, and they're not going to do anything that much different for you than what you can yourself do by just buying this. I think it's what, $12, David? How much is the book?
It's about 15, I think.
Okay, it's $15 for the book. The tool that you need to keep track of everything for you costs nothing. It's just, you know, you get it at no cost. And, you know, for 15 bucks one-time purchase, you basically can get your whole SEO strategy put together and then implement it on your end at your own speed, your own pace. So definitely, please go get the book if you don't have it. Follow the chapters. Feel free to look at the community, SEO Help community. Feel free to look at these hangouts and use the tool and actually do the stuff. If you do it, you'll see results. Okay, so much for the initial conversation. Let's actually get into this. So with Google My Business, as they called it, to get to it from the on the web here, you simply go to www.google.business slash, I'm sorry, not dot, slash business. So google.com/business is how you get to it. They also have a web. In addition to web, they also have a mobile app, which is also very helpful, and we'll cover that. But before that, you know, I'll let David do introduction before we get into the slides on the actual Google My Business. David?
Thank you. And that's a great sort of way to actually come into it. We have actually been working on this now for 15 hours, including this hangout on air. And each hangout, each chapter of the book, incrementally has been building up on pretty much the same message. And the message is relatively the same throughout anything that has to do with search engine optimization. The techniques may change a little bit. The technicalities may get a little bit more complex, a little bit less complex, depending on the context and the business. But essentially, every time, it comes down to the core of what a business does, how it does it, and why it does it. And today we're working on rules of three, because this kind of three-step thing will come up again and again as we go through and I explain some of the things. But this is something really basic. I mean, what Oleg touched upon as he introduced this is that if you do not understand your business, if you don't understand why you're in business, if you understand how you do everything, and understand it at a very sort of deep, visceral level, so that your business is actually your own, you totally get what you're doing, then trying to get to search and trying to project yourself is going to be a losing battle. It's going to be something which will take you 2 steps forward, 3 steps back every time. You'll feel like it's an uphill struggle and you're not getting anywhere. And this is something which comes up again and again when I talk to businesses. It's not uncommon, which means a lot of them are actually facing the same problem. And usually the core issue every time is that not enough thinking has gone on internally on why the business is actually working the way it does, why it's working the way it has got itself now to the present, and what can be done to actually make sure this is optimized, the values come through, and the business itself becomes closer to its audience. to actually introduce something which has to do with search, with something which has to do with an introspective look at businesses. But that is the stage of affairs that we're at now. Search has become so fragmented in many ways and so granular in many other ways that unless you're able to look at your business in a very detailed fashion and actually be very detail driven as you move forward in everything you do, whether it's branding or marketing or search engine optimization or setting up your website or creating content or any of those things, if you can't do it in a very granular, very detailed way, then all you're doing really is ticking boxes and hoping it's enough. And unfortunately, today, this is not enough. It really isn't. So bear that in mind as we move forward. Okay, that brings us to the subject, basically, which is subject, there's step 15, which is Google My Business. And essentially, this is a free service which Google provides for businesses to actually appear in local searches. It's worth bearing in mind that when that happens, I mean, the things that Google looks at, and Google very recently updated their document on the web in terms of what they are looking for when they are looking at the listings on a business which has been registered there, are essentially relevance, distance, and prominence. And I will explain that. Again, there's three things, right? So let's go through them: relevance, distance, and prominence. Now, most people doing searches today are doing so in mobile devices, which means that they're fairly localized in terms of what they're looking for, and there's a certain degree of urgency usually in terms of the information they're looking for. So rather than being an informational type of search, the majority of those are going to be searches which are looking to either access a service of some kind or solve a problem of some kind. And this is where those three things now come through. Any business that doesn't actually project its relevance to its audience, any business that does a very poor job in explaining its locality. So, if you have a physical business, or even if you don't, let's say you don't have a physical business, you're totally virtual, but again, you can't possibly be completely global. You must be sending stuff off to certain vicinities a lot more easily than others. And these are things which need to be communicated. And if you haven't communicated those things, now you're beginning to miss out a huge chunk of your potential audience because your local searches won't come up on local searches. If you're a local business, if you have a physical presence, you have a shop, a restaurant, any kind of sort of physical business, and you haven't addressed this, that's a crime. It really is, because you're shooting yourself in the foot in a big way. So basically, when we talk about distance, when you do a local search on your phone, what Google will try and do immediately is look for the services which answer that query in your immediate vicinity. And that vicinity could be anywhere from a couple of 100 meters to 2 to 3 kilometers at the most. And then basically once it finds a distance, it's going to look at relevance in terms of which business addresses the query best, and then prominence. And this is a tricky one, because how do you become prominent? Well, not by shouting out the loudest or buying adverts, but by basically having reviews for your business, by having great content which is engaged with, by having activity on your website, by having citations and mentions which Google sees on the web in relation to the location, in relation to the service, in relation to the product that links to the query. So that's a very granular, very detailed approach. It's not something that can be solved overnight. It's not something that you can put together and say, okay, here it is, 3 steps, we apply them blindly and we get there. It has to be part of your everyday in and out working of your business. And if you can't actually integrate it like this, any kind of search engine optimization that you apply simply becomes a labor-intensive layer that's bound to fail long-term because you're going to find it too hard. So I'm going to stop here for a second and so allow Oleg to bring in any questions or anything, and we will continue with the rules of 3 together today.
Absolutely. I'm going to show some screens here. So the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you, again, we're talking about near vicinity, like David was saying, and you want to make sure that you believe. You see, like right there it says on the screen, you have to want to believe. And this is from a new book called The Sniper Mind, which happens to be a new book from David coming out this November. So I just wanted to make sure everybody catches that and understand it's coming in November. And see, it's very close proximity to the next tab here, which says Google My Business. So you see, the proximity makes big difference everywhere.
Absolutely.
seriously though, we're not going to talk about the Sniper Mind today, which is an awesome book, by the way. Look for that in November. But going back to Google My Business, when you go to Google My Business by going to google.com/business or business.google.com, same thing, you're going to get a list of all the different pages that you manage. Most likely, if you're just a single business, you will have single page, and you select the one you want, and that's going to take you to the well, if you click on the business and click on view location, as you can see here, I guess you're not seeing it here. Okay, as you can see right there, view location, it'll take you to a screen that looks like this. And you can see this little site out here that Google shows up when people search, where it's got your name. I'm just going to use one of my clients to show you, what's being done here. And you can see they have their reviews, and they have their rating, and they have the link to their website and directions how to get to them. And they can even ask people, can you answer some questions if you know this place? There's their address, the phone number, hours of operations, how you can order from them since it's a restaurant. When they're, it says bunch of information, including some reviews, bunch of information on this one card, very relevant when people are searching for the business. So that's kind of the location. It's part of this service that allows you to then have this kind of display when people search for you. If you actually go as the business to maintain your My Business presence, then it looks something like this. You have your logo, and of course you can totally, as you can see on the right here, you can edit the information. So you can indicate what your phone number is and what your website is and what kind of place it is by putting tags in there. You have the map to where you are. You can specify hours of operation. You can upload photos. You can have a bunch of them. You can even have a virtual tour if it makes sense. If you're some kind of a vacation spot or a store of some sort that would be, people would help, or real estate is a perfect example to have virtual tour. It's a great way to show people your stuff. You can see some insights, as they call them, which is basically statistics about traffic to your online presence. So you can see right there that in this case there were 11.2 thousand searches, which is up 10%, and this is last month. Okay, and then you can see that the views are actually down 3%, and the actions that people took were 34.6 thousand. And if you click on View Insights, then it gives you a much more elaborate display of the same stuff and more stuff. So it looks something like this, and it shows you that, for example, people found this place 87% of the time. There were so many searches, and 87% of the time it was by doing a search, and then 12% of the time it was by going directly to the website. So it gives you really good statistics about your business, so you know where people are coming from. You don't know who they are necessarily, but at least are they coming through your website, by directly going to your domain, your URL, or are they coming by searching? In this case, you can see this restaurant, lion's share, majority has come from search. So it tells you something about what you should do. Where people ask questions, for example, like, does my domain name make a huge difference? Well, if you look at the statistic, you can see the domain name doesn't play that much of a role because it's only 12% of traffic. Everybody else finds this place using search. So, it gives you some ideas about what to do in terms of business. Where customers view your business in Google. And you look over here and you can see, it's by date and then how many views, and you can see over here that it's pretty much kind of in this range here, and we got listing on search and on maps, and you can see they're pretty similar. You can see that the actual graphs both graphs pretty similar. Then of course there's this huge spike at this point, which was Cinco de Mayo, May 5th, and you can see totally that both maps and things just went through the roof compared to where the traffic normalized. So all of these things gives you ideas about what to do when you get traffic, you can figure out why you get traffic, things like that. There is customers' actions, people who visited the website. Again, on Cinco de Mayo, it was huge compared to the rest. People who requested directions. So how many people request direction, how many people called from looking at your stuff online, picked up the phone and actually called you from their mobile phones. So all of these statistics are very helpful to know what's going on. David was talking about proximity. Here we are. It says driving directions request. You can see this little halo around the location that points out what is the radius where people were requesting directions to get to your place. And as you can see in this particular case, it's very, very location centric. In other words, it's very close to the actual location of this particular restaurant, where people, if people are somewhere in Manchester, England, they're not going to be requesting directions to go to this restaurant in Bellevue, Washington. Okay, and it makes perfect sense. So local proximity is huge, and this is where everybody's coming from. And you can see they actually break it down by cities where the traffic, the direction requests come from. And as you can see, it's in, you know, Washington State, King County, which is where the city is, the city of Bellevue. So all of the requests are coming directly from the city itself. I mean, in terms of majority of where the traffic requests are coming from, which is basically telling us what? Telling us that when people drive around and then they try to find places, you know, close to them, they're asking for directions. You know, they see a list of restaurants that serve lunch. They see this particular restaurant and they see it's only, you know, whatever, 1 mile away, which is 1.5 kilometers in British English. And then they, you know, they push on the button saying, take me there. And so it takes them directly. That's why you can see this halo right around the area there and stuff. And then you got the phone calls. You know, when are the phone calls coming in? How many? Well, you can see that Monday, Tuesday, you know, you had roughly about 16 calls per day. Wednesday, it's a little bit more. Thursday, it's back to that. And then there was a spike on Friday in this particular case. And you can look, you can drill it down. You can look at it by the quarter. You can look at it by time of day as opposed to day of the week. So it really gives you really good statistics, so you can have kind of a bird's eye view about what is going on with traffic and people coming to your business. Then you got a huge thing that I highly recommend you do a lot with is photos. You know, you get tremendous boost in terms of people coming to you and giving you at least a look-see and then potential business by having photos there. And for places like restaurants, it's a natural thing. But, you know, you can come up with photos for just about anything. And you can see the same kind of deal. You had traffic, you know, people are looking at, like, you know, roughly in the average over 1,000 photos in this range that they're showing. And yet on Cinco de Mayo, May 5th, the thing jumped like 3 times, over 3 times of the norm. Both the for you and see, they show also businesses like you. So you can also, you know, they also, Google compares it to somebody who is like them. And it says your photos receive 67.6% more views than similar businesses. What does it tell you? It tells you that these people have better pictures, because most of them were taken by me. And also these people have more pictures than other people do. And that's what the kind of pictures that they show is what people are looking at. And, you know, it makes a big difference in terms of people being able to find you by having those kind of statistics. And then you see it says photo quantity, and you can see that businesses like you, they're down here, and then this particular place is like 3 times in terms of quantity of photos that other businesses have. So bottom line is, all of this information here, it really gives you an excellent glimpse about traffic to your website, about I mean, not to your website, traffic to your business and traffic to your online presence and what things are used. Then you click on reviews here, and you get all kinds of, obviously, reviews from different people with both ratings and reviews. And they have a nice handy view and reply. So you can, you know, click on this thing, view and reply, and it tells, you know, very subpar Mexican food. So you put some, you know, reply like, please stop by again anytime and let us know how we can improve to earn a better rating. You know, something normal. You know, don't write a reply saying, you stupid moron, you know, you don't know what Mexican food is. You know, obviously, you never do anything like that. You know, you want to reply in some way that would be, obviously, always needs to be polite and positive. But the bottom line is, replying really diffuses a lot of these negative messages like this, because you know, getting into an argument with somebody who you don't even know is a losing proposition for you. You're not winning any hearts and minds. You're not bringing anything positive to your business. But if you're trying to address the problem like I just wrote, then somebody is going to look at it, okay, they do care, which this restaurant does care. They want to get as many people to come in. They've been in business for, I think, like 18 years. I mean, these people know what they're doing. So if something went haywire, they want to know about it. And so obviously they welcome this, and that's how they usually like to reply. You know, here's one that says, this place is great. I love the carne asada. I like to eat, to eat in for full service. I prefer to get takeout from Tapatio and something else, they said. So if you look at something like this and they gave 5 stars, on one hand, you can ignore it. Okay. On the other hand, you can say something like this, thanks, Cole, for your honest review. Made my day. Okay. So it's just be human-like, because you are human. And so act like a human. And this is how you establish your relationship. It's a way for you to establish your relationship with your potential and current customers. Because when I say potential, obviously these people are all customers because they wrote a review based on their experience, so they are customers. But there's a lot of people that read these reviews that are not customers, and they may be looking at this review to consider, should we give this business a second look or give them any time at all and go there and eat there? And this is where these reviews come into play, because it's like you're advertising. You cannot buy something that says, right here, very good food and the staff was great. It's short, it's to the point, and it makes a obviously impactful statement. Obviously, there is some, you can see there's some positive, there's some negatives. Like this guy said, I was going to give this place 2 stars because it's not the absolute worst Mexican food, but after seeing people, blah blah blah, and so people are people. You're gonna have a mix of things, but you can work on trying to get better reputation, everything else. And Google likes to have ratings of like 4 stars. These particular people happen to have a rating of 4.1 right now out of 70 reviews. So they have, overall they have pretty good ratings. And so obviously you always want to work on getting them as good as possible. And Google looks at all this stuff. If you look at, for example, one more thing I'm going to show you before we go back to David again. If you look at info here on the info tab on the left, you will see all kinds of information you can edit here. It shows you that this particular restaurant is published on Google Search, Google Maps, Google Plus. One of the things that's super important that a lot of people don't either know or don't do is you have a business, you have a Google Maps presence. In other words, your place of business will show up on Google Maps, but you need to claim it with Google. A lot of people just, I see all kinds of businesses constantly, and I have a link that says claim this business. And of course, I'm not the owner, so I'm not going to claim anything. But bottom line is, it's very clear that tons and tons of businesses do not claim their Google Maps listing, which is a huge mistake. Always claim your listing, and then once you claim it and verify that you're actually the owner or a manager, then you can go in and make all these changes. You can change. You can see all these little pencils. These are all edit. Allow you to edit. You can edit your name, your description. You can edit the address. You can edit the open times anytime you want. You can add special hours, like if you're open late for some holiday, Christmas or whatever. You can edit phone numbers. You can edit website, your menu URL. Like they had the wrong menu URL on this particular thing by default, so we changed it to point to their menu. And it's very convenient because people go see this and they click and they see the menu right there without even going to the website necessarily, which is very handy. They got all kinds of questions they ask people that are like guides, as they call them. And I'm one of these guys. So they ask all kinds of questions about, do they have wheelchair access? Do they have this? Do they have that? And so Google is trying to actually point out, using their machine learning, to try to point out, and also their artificial intelligence, and help business owners to make changes that they may not have thought of. Because a lot of people said that, there's high chairs. So Google says many people said there are high chairs. Do you agree or disagree? If you agree, they're going to automatically update your listing. So Google does a lot of things by looking at this and by asking other people to help you get this maintained. And so you can now you can add services, the new thing they just added. I mean, you can see, I'm not going to go through everything, but you can see there's a lot of things you can put in for your listings there, and deal with statistics, deal with reviews. All of this is done through this Google Business thing. And then, of course, the photos. If you click on photos, you can see that this particular place has a lot of photos of food because it's a restaurant. But you can see that, the statistics, like, for example, this photo was looked at over 4,000 times. And you can see when it was initially posted. Some photos like this one, for example, it's been 3 weeks and nobody even looked at it. I mean, nobody actually clicked on it to look at it, for example, which is interesting. But this skull has been viewed 772 times. So it's one of these things that also point out to you what kind of photos actually are more popular than not. For example, you look at a photo like this, it's been looked at 158 times, right? And it's just a photo of salsa. You think, what's the big deal? But it's kind of a nice looking thing, good quality photo, and people like it, so people click on it to look at it. But the thing that's astonishing here, David, I want you to take a look at this and try to explain it. Next to it is a photo of nachos, as you can see, right? There's nothing special about this photo. I mean, I took this photo actually very briefly. I was on my way out. 1.2 thousand views on this photo. Can you explain how is it salsa gets 158, the lady with 2 margaritas gets nothing, okay? And at the same time, this thing gets 1.2K views. Can you explain that?
Everybody loves nachos.
I guess. But anyway, but
I'm feeling hungry looking at this.
I know. But the bottom line is, if you have services, for example, like Uber Eats, you can put a photo with Uber Eats or any other delivery services that your restaurant, for example, has, and then people will see it and people click on it and people know. So it's a way for you to promote certain things. Like one of the things that I don't think I put on there yet is one of the services they have is the digital loyalty program that my company put together called Fred. So people get a certain offer, and then they can come in, and it's using nothing but mobile phones. And so what I do for other places is I just simply add a picture of a QR code so people can sign up directly from looking at these photos. You just have the QR code and the offer, and anybody who wants, they can sign up right there from the looking at photos. So there's a lot of this kind of promotional stuff that you can do. You can post pictures like over here. It's a picture of the restaurant, but you can see, nice skies in background. They have tremendous, I mean, it's a very festive and very colorful place. As you can see, they got beautiful wooden furniture. So you want to publish pictures to show people, there's some food pictures, beautiful, there's, gorgeous looking bottle of tequila. They have beautiful art inside the place. The menu you can put on there too, in addition to that. So there's a lot of different things you can do like this photo-wise to really, like David just said, just looking at these things makes him hungry. But the main thing about this particular display, it gives you an idea what kind of photos resonate with people, what kind of photos they like, and so you can adjust your photo taking for your business to concur with what people are looking at, what they like to see. Because keep in mind, a lot of people make a huge mistake where they think that they're building website presence, everything else for themselves. It's a completely false idea. You're not building website for yourself. You don't need a website. You're building the website for people who are going to come to look at this website. And those people are not you. Those people are your customers and your potential customers. So with that being the case, you should look at these statistics here and look at all this information with the same goal in mind. You're trying to come up with all the stuff for somebody. And if you see that these people, for example, love to see pictures like this, 2.89, almost 3,000 views, or even a simple picture of guacamole with, some nice, I mean, it's a beautiful looking picture, as you can see right there, right? I mean, nice looking picture. Nothing super fancy. It's nothing that cannot be taken with a regular mobile phone, just like those nachos were. It's a regular mobile phone camera, nothing super fancy, no setup. I mean, this particular one is more professional because you got a little bit of a focus here, no focus there, the way the colors are. So it definitely looks very professional, the way this one was taken. But if you look at the nachos pictures, there's nothing specially, special about it. Or like this picture here, which happens to be mine. You can see, I mean, it's kind of a cool looking deal, but at the same time, it's not that special. And yet, we can see by numbers, it's been viewed almost 2,000 times. So it gives you a great glimpse into the deal. One last thing before I switch over to David here, I'm going to point out is that you don't have to be managing all the stuff yourself. As you can see, this restaurant is not owned by me, but I'm one of the managers, and you can set up to, I think, up to 10 managers who will contribute in terms of managing different aspects of your presence there, and you can do that. So I want to talk a little bit about the mobile part, but before that, let's switch over back to David and have his some stuff before I set up for the mobile.
Okay. That was absolutely fascinating. It was brilliant, and I loved the fact that you're using all these pictures and experimenting with it. And let's keep in mind that when we talk about restaurants, we're talking about perhaps one of the most cutthroat, difficult businesses there are. It is intensely localized. It depends very much on reputation. It needs to be on search. It has to be relevant. It has to surface at the right time, at the right place for the right person. And then it also has to appeal to very specific things, because they can't do everything for everybody. So it's a very difficult business. And being able to experiment with photographs, being able to understand what resonates with the public, being able to double down on that and give them more of this, having that engagement in comments, all these are key now to essentially surfacing at the right time in localized search, and we'll see how. So let's go and connect a few dots. Now we saw that from Google's perspective, essentially, all you need is relevance, distance, and prominence. These three things, right? So you need to make sure that you have your hours and your working hours and how you can be reached and where your address is and be on Google Maps and have all the driving directions, because this is key, this is critical. Somebody doing a local search, they need to be able to find that. You need to be able to understand that, hey, this is a Mexican restaurant in this particular example. So if you're looking for pizza, arguably this is not a place to go to. And then the next thing, of course, is prominence. You know, if there are, you know, within a 3-block area, 2 or maybe 3 Mexican restaurants, well, which one should I go to? The nearest one or the best one? And we all know the answer to that one, right? We want to go to the best one always. So in order to ascertain that, Google relies on a lot of things. So from those 3 things, which are relevance, distance, and prominence, now we'll go to the next 3 things which Google relies on. And these are branding, values, and identity. And these 3 things now, again, they sound very simple, but they're not, because in your branding, essentially, what are you doing? You're creating a very specific unwritten contract with your audience, and you're making a promise. So let's go on this example, which Oleg gave us, this particular Mexican restaurant. The moment we come across it, we see the content that's been published, we look at the reviews, and here's the promise. Come here, you're gonna have a great time, you're gonna enjoy great food. If that promise is kept, I'm gonna go there back again and again, and perhaps also recommend it to my friends. If that promise is broken, I'm not gonna go back there. I'm gonna write it off to, hey, one bad experience. So really, there's a lot of work that needs to be done. This is something that the restaurant owner and their webmaster control very tightly. You have to take steps to make sure that relationship is forged and then maintained. So this is the branding. And then we talk about values. You can talk about values, of course. You begin to think about things which are related to values. And again, if we stay within the restaurant theme, we talk about the quality of food, how it is sourced. We talk about the experience, how it is served. We talk about the price, because that's also relevant. We talk about the sort of the trade-off between price and setting and atmosphere and everything like this. So, you know, if you go to a tapas bar and you're paying, I don't know, $2.99, and then you go to another tapas bar and you're paying $9.99, there's going to be a difference there. And that's part of what you're actually trading off. So that has to be factored in. So essentially your values, what you stand for, all those things need to be communicated somehow on the web. And we're talking about content creation here. And certainly within Google My Business, the pictures themselves tell a story. The fact, and how do we know? I mean, look at the simple pictures of nachos, right? That's all it is. How it appeals, how that simple picture actually unfolds into a story, into the audience's mind, which says, hey, that's the kind of place I want to go to because this is what I want. I want to go get those nachos. And I want it to look like that. So, I mean, this is the power of the visual aspect of it. But certainly, you can also create articles which will surface in proper search. You can also create perhaps specific posts which explain what you do, etc. So this is part of your values projection strategy. And all that, of course, leads to the third thing, identity. Who are you? You can't say, well, I'm just a Mexican food restaurant, because it's say, okay, great. But you know, there's another 3 in the block. So why should I come to you and not one of the other 3? So really, if you can't forge your own identity, if you can't fix it, if you can't understand it, then you really can't put in place a strategy which allows you to connect with your audience, because you don't understand really who you are and why you do the things which you do, which means also you don't understand what you do exactly. So really, you can see how the fundamentals, the basics, the introspective stuff becomes the foundation that allows us then to become better at working online, better at reaching people, better at forging relationships. And let's not forget, every business is essentially a people. And Oleg made a very important point about humanizing the experience. People do business with people. So if you go to a restaurant, well, it's not a faceless organization run by robots, which are somehow in the back, like vending machines, working, processing raw materials and spewing out food. It doesn't work like that. You know that there are people there, they have ideas, they're passionate about something, and you're going there to access that passion. Otherwise, you're going to go to your local supermarket and get prepackaged frozen Mexican food, throw it in the microwave, and there you go. So really, you're going there for very specific things. And if their website, if their digital presence, if everything that you come across isn't good at projecting that, again, arguably you're missing out on not making that connection, which will lead customers to your door. And let's not forget, somebody making a search on their mobile device essentially are at a stage where they can be swayed either way, right? They can go to a Mexican restaurant, number one, or Mexican restaurant number two, or Mexican restaurant number three. It's up to you to take the steps which basically drive people to your door. So this is very important. This is where the identity comes in. So we've looked now at two sets of threes, right? We've looked at relevance and distance and prominence. We looked at branding, values, and identity. And now we come to the really difficult part, because in order to connect that, in order to make this connection, we need message, we need tone, which also implies voice, and we need engagement. And then again, Ole gave a fantastic example. He looked at the reviews and he answered to the negative one, he answered to the positive one. That's driving engagement, basically. That's making sure that somebody understands that when they leave a comment, there's a person there behind the restaurant, and that person responds, and they appreciate a good comment. They also appreciate a bad comment and say, hey, yeah, great, I'm sorry, it wasn't what you expected, but this actually helps us become better. I think that humanity convinces people to give you another shot. That humanity convinces people that, hey, you are basically constantly improving, as opposed to someone who just couldn't care less, right? So those three things. So let's go through them again. So we're looking now, when we get to the final three sets, we need message, we need tone. How do you communicate? And within that is also the voice. What kind of voice have you got? If you're, for example, a posh restaurant where you have to book and minimum price is, I don't know, $50 or $100 per head, the approach, the pictures, everything is going to be different to the kind of restaurant that everybody just walks in and says, hey, is there a table? Can we sit down? This is the kind of thing that you need to work out, which leads us back to identity again, right? Understanding who you are and what you do. And the engagement is also part of the tone and the voice and the message. It's what do you say? So if somebody gives you a great message, what do you say? Cheers. Well, yes, but perhaps you can be a little bit more sort of effusive on this, and you can expand a little bit more and say, hey, great, I was so glad that you enjoyed the experience you had with us. And we work really hard to make sure that every time that somebody comes in, they have this kind of experience, and we'll try to maintain it. I mean, this is kind of expressing things, and I know it sounds like stating the obvious, but let's not forget it's the web. There's not a lot of body language to get us across. There's not a lot of tonal voice or anything like this. So every little bit, every incremental detail goes into creating that kind of presence, that kind of humanity, which leads to that sought after engagement. And why is engagement important? Because if we go back to the original three, when we look at relevance, distance, and prominence, when Google looks at prominence, when Google makes a decision on, hey, this restaurant of the three is the best, and the one you should go to, it looks at engagement, it looks at these signals, it looks at see how everything is done. So all those little details, all those steps that are driven by data begin to coalesce into a very real, very entity-driven digital presence. And if Google has a clear idea of how good your restaurant is, or how good your business is, if it has a clear idea of what people think about it, has a clear idea of what it does, when it does it, how it does it, well, then it's going to come up in search as a direct answer to a query, right? It's almost as simple as that.
Right. And also I wanted to add that if you look at like their example, for example, that particular restaurant, remember how we talked about the photos being, we have 3 times as many photos as other people, similar businesses, and you could see the traffic in terms of coming to them is way higher than coming to other similar places. I mean, that's an example right there where you can use this tool to give you good business, be a business guide to help you get above your competition. I mean, that's basically, it shows you what you need to do to get, because if it shows you Like in my case, it showed that, the photos that are there are 67% more viewed than competition. You're doing a good thing if you're over more than half better than everybody else. But if it says that your photos are 3% of what the competition is, then you need to relook at your photo situation and do it differently, because obviously you're not where you need to be able to get the maximum benefit. If you see that certain pictures are not taken, not looked at enough times, do pictures that are more meaningful to people. Again, you're doing all of this to people. So it's really important to kind of pay attention, because Google looks at all these things, like David said, and it comes up with this kind of web of all these interconnections to figure out where it's going to put you. But at the same time, you also have to look at it from a standpoint of the consumers themselves. For example, I drive around. Obviously, I always have one of these on me, just like everybody else. I mean, according to statistics, over 80% now of American population has cell phones on them. So pretty much everybody has one. And so my son goes, let's go get some to eat. Okay, I whip out the phone and I looked at, what are the places to eat. Obviously, I don't want to be driving to, across town or anything. I want to go somewhere else. So it comes up with a list of restaurants that are close by. Next thing I immediately look at, and I'm not saying I'm like everybody else, but at the same time, I think a lot of people are similar. Okay, here's the restaurant. Here's what their rating is. The first thing I looked at is the rating. If the rating is below 4, I don't even pay any attention. I don't care what else they do. I don't care how good their pictures are. If the ratings are that bad from other people, I don't want to deal with them. So I look at something like Google does, 4 or up. The higher, the better, obviously. Looking at a higher rating, then if I look at, let's say there's a bunch of them at 4.2, 4.3, then I look at some reviews to get an idea. I understand that people are people. One guy is going to say, I love it. The other guy is going to say, it sucks. I totally understand that. But at the same time, you get some kind of feel from looking at that. One restaurant has 3 reviews, and they've been there for 5 years, and the other restaurant has 100 reviews, and they've been there for 2 months. There's a difference when you look at it from that perspective. So the numbers of reviews make a difference, and the overall rating. If there is 2 reviews and the guy has 5.5-star rating, I don't go there, because that doesn't mean anything to me. That 5-star rating is meaningless with just 2 people. But if you have 200 people and then you have a 5-star review, then it's definitely something that's worth considering. So you immediately make those kind of decisions as a consumer, where you have the map, you know how to get to it. You look at some of the pictures. And one of the things I wanted to point out is that you saw some of the pictures that the Portillo has. You can see they have a lot of pictures of food, which is great. People love food pictures. But also they have a lot of pictures of the interior. So the idea being that, if you go to a restaurant to eat, the atmosphere makes a huge difference. It's one of the reasons you don't take takeout and you actually eat somewhere else, because otherwise, why not just take the food, go home? So you look at reviews, you look at ratings, quickly give you an idea if it's plausible. And then if you're actually going to take your family or just by yourself with your friends to go there, you want to see what the place looks like. So it's not some kind of dump where you're bringing your girlfriend for the first time and it's a totally complete dump, So having pictures of the interior makes a big difference about getting you in the mood. Timeshare people, I used to be involved in the timeshare industry a long time ago. They use the magic of imagery and videos to put you on that beach in Hawaii or in Mexico, and that's how they sold timeshares. It's not because it was affordable or it was a good idea. It's nothing like that. It's they would give you this multi-camera show and they would put you in the mood, and that's how you wind up. It's all, everybody buys emotionally. They justify it using logic, but they buy stuff. Everything is bought on emotions. So if you get people emotionally involved in the right mood, they're going to buy your stuff. So same thing with food. Obviously, you can put pictures, all kinds of pictures of food. That gets people going. But if you actually put a little more context to it to show what tables look like, what the wall art looks like, then people know where they're going. And if they like what they see, if they're comfortable, then they're obviously going to like their experience when they get there. It's not going to be some kind of big surprise. Oh my God, maybe we should rethink this. And there's no question that with all of this being in place, and if you do everything and you fill out all these fields and you put this stuff out there and you have Google Maps claim everything is great and you make horrible food, you're not going to reach anything. You're not going to accomplish anything. So it must be a given that you start out by trying to produce the best product or service that you can, and then all these other things wind up working around it. So I just want to make sure that nobody substitutes SEO for providing good products. If you make lousy products, no SEO is going to help you. You agree with that, David?
Absolutely, 100%. I love what
All
you
right.
said there. I think it's really important as a message.
Thank you. So now let's step a little bit through for people who don't know and are interested in the mobile version. So right now I'm going to show you a screen shot here, right there. I just took some pictures on my phone just to show you what mobile looks like. So if you go to Google My Business, select particular business, it looks something like this. I mean, and I have some screens overlapping, but it gives you an idea. And you can see here, if you scroll down, oops, that's not how you scroll down. If you scroll down, you can see it's got this insights is the first thing that comes up. And, it's similar information to what you saw on the desktop, but you can get all of this directly from mobile. Notice that Google has a little question mark here, so you can see what it's all about, this particular section. And you can see in the last 30 days, they had so many searches up 10%, views were actually down 3%, actions were up 10%, so many directions. And so you give an idea how you're doing in the last month, and you can get more details by clicking show details. Then you scroll down and you see reviews, and you can see what your overall rating is for reviews. You can also see how many reviews total and how many you haven't responded yet. And they have a nice little link here that says manage reviews, where you can actually do what I showed you before, where you can go and do it directly on the mobile app. Also, you got analytics here for Google Analytics from the website. So you can see last day they had 8% rise in new visits, so many unique visits, so many page views, and you can use, click on View Analytics to see the rest. Keep also in mind that the mobile app has this little, what it's called, FAB, I think it's called, frequently accessed button, which is the one on the bottom right here, and that's the button you use for adding pictures to this business. So you can add photos anytime. You just click on it, take a photo, and it's going to add it to the deal. Next, we've got, if you keep going down, we got YouTube. So you can see what's happening with your YouTube, how many subscribers you got, how many views you had, and how many minutes they watched, and how much is it compared to before. Then if you pull down the menu, the side menu on mobile, you have the options right there, home, business info, photos, insights, reviews, so you can go directly to any particular section that way too. Why am I keep clicking on this thing? Can you tell me this why I'm clicking on that? Okay. And then you go to business info, and it shows you all these details. You see all the little pencils. All of this you can totally edit the mobile. So you can essentially edit everything you want on the mobile just as easily as you can on the desktop. All of this stuff is editable, changeable anytime. You can change it, practically instantly. Then you got the photos are broken down by categories. You got the interior photos, exterior photos. You have food and drink photos. You've got menu photos, team photos. So they got all these categories. They break it down, and I'm sure this is Google's AI that's doing this, because I did not differentiate, and they didn't differentiate these pictures to indicate what's what. So Google is being smart about it and trying to show. And also, as you can see, they got the menu there and separate group of photos there. And I don't have any team photos. These people are so shy of cameras, it's unbelievable. But they are. And then we got some additional photos that Google couldn't figure out that this is food and this is food for whatever reason, so they put them there. And then you got identity photos, so they have all these categories, and you can easily move things between them if you want. And then, of course, virtual tour, if there is one. This particular one doesn't have it, so they just tell you about it. So that's the mobile thing. Also, if you look at insights, you can see things like, again, where the search is coming from, if it's direct or from search. You can see the going back. And another thing I wanted to point out, if looking at this, as I mentioned before, we were talking about Cinco de Mayo being a big deal. Big deal compared to the regular traffic. When you look at these things over time for your business, you can make, first of all, you can track your campaigns. Let's say you're doing some kind of marketing campaign, and then you see what happened to traffic based on that. Or some kind of holiday comes in, and you can see that on Cinco de Mayo, your traffic goes to the roof because you have so many more people. So do you want to do extra specials or anything on Cinco de Mayo? No, you don't want to do that, because people come anyway, as you can see. What you want to do is you can kind of get creative about it. With one other client I have, what we did was we gave specials for Cinco de Mayo on the following day. Because as you can see here, this was on the 5th, and you can see on the 6th, it was down to regular level. It was, you know, totally just like up and spiking down. So the 6 usually they don't have much traffic, and so we figured this would be great, you know, to invite people to come back the next day to give them more business. And that's exactly what happened with a different business. These guys didn't do it, but this other business I talked to, that's exactly what they did. Instead of giving more incentives on the 5th, they knew there were going to be a lot of people, so they wound up doing it on the 6th. So, you know, to entice people to come back on the 6th. And you can see they show, you know, this is the chart on search and chart on maps. Let's keep going here quickly. Let's see what else we got. This is kind of interesting here because it shows visits to the website, request directions. We looked at that before, but also people calling and how many people looked at photos. And I want to point out to your attention that it says total actions were 36.5K, right? For this particular month, 36.5 thousand actions. Out of this 36.5 thousand actions, 35.8 thousand were viewing photos. So this right there is it's a poster child for why you should always have pictures, good pictures, and plenty of pictures for your business listing on Google Maps and on Google My Business, because people love photos and people love videos. But in this particular case, you know, the videos they will see on YouTube, but photos they see here. And you can see, I mean, it's not like anything anybody invented. You can see from the actual real example here that even though people do take actions, they completely pale in comparison to people looking at pictures. Okay? And of course, looking at pictures mobile. So keep that in mind. Pictures are extremely important. I mean, that's a perfect example right there. And then, you know, we have the driving direction requests. You can see, you know, we looked at it before too, so you see the little map, and, you know, the detailed breakdown on phone calls. And so essentially everything you saw before, you're seeing here on a mobile version. That's it. And even management of users. One last thing before I wrap up this deal is they also have settings on Google My Business, and you can see it says show device photos. And it says allow app to suggest device photos. So this is something that's cool. When I go to a business, if I turn it on, it'll ask me, do you want to add, if I take some pictures, it'll ask me, do you want to add these photos to this business? It already knows what the business is based on my GPS. And so it's very easy to add photos to a business by using this option. So I'd recommend you turn it on, especially, you know, being in your own business and stuff. If your business qualifies. I mean, if you're running a web design firm, then you probably don't need this like that. You just post pictures of whatever your designs are, and, you know, you just make them manually. But if you have business that you know, people come to, like a restaurant or a shop of some sort or something like that, then it makes sense to have this be turned on. With that, I'm going to turn this sharing off, and I'm going to have David, if he doesn't mind, say a few words to wrap this up, because I think pretty much we covered everything. After he takes this call from Trump. No?
Thank you. Okay, no, it's fine. I thought that was really, really good. Okay, I mean, we covered a lot of things today. Essentially, you know, the picture that's beginning to be formed in terms of search engine optimization is the granularity, the data density that needs to be created on the web for your digital presence. Oleg gave fantastic examples on how you can do this, both on the sort of on your laptop, so you approach the normal desktop search, but also on your mobile device. It is important to stress that the majority of people, particularly when it comes to local businesses, are looking for things on their devices. You don't go around carrying your big desktop computer with you, and you won't be using it anyway. So it is important to actually do your due diligence here. It's not rocket science. It does need a lot of work, but that kind of work is the work you should be doing anyway. So it's just a case of understanding what is it exactly you have to do, how do you best integrate it into the day-to-day working of your business, and making it happen. And if you do need help, then you can always access, you know, the skill set and services of some professional. And again, I'm going to use Oleg here because he's an easy example. He does that for businesses, but there are a lot of other people in your vicinity which will help you do something similar. And all you're doing then is knowingly creating time for yourself. You're buying their expertise, so you don't have to spend time learning that. You're buying their time, so you don't have to spend time doing that. It does not absolve you from understanding what it is you're actually doing, because you can't say, well, I'm going to get Oleg to do it for me, and he's going to do it. It's not like that, right? He's not going to do SEO. He's not going to do it. It has to be something very specific. It has to be a projection of your values, a projection of your identity, of your projection of your brand. He has to communicate that. He has to be very specific. And Oleg actually gave fantastic examples. He looked at his photographs. He can see the impressions. He can see what works. He can see what doesn't work. He's constantly working at to actually make sure that actually works for the business he works for. This is the kind of approach that you'll need from any professional that you actually hire. Keep that in mind. You need to understand what you do before you can hire somebody to do it for you. And with that, I think we reached almost the end of the day.
The only thing, thank you, David. The only thing I wanted to add to that is that, speaking of hiring professionals, it's important that you do not, you got a couple of problems here looking into it in terms of reality of the situation. The reality is you're running a business, and your business most likely has nothing to do with any of this stuff. In other words, you have to have this, you have to have online presence, but you don't know anything, or you know very little about it. You just know it needs to get done. So that's why you're not doing it yourself. You need to get somebody else. Okay, so that part is understandable. The challenge and how you should be looking at this is, do not just hire anybody off the street who says, I'm an SEO guy, I'll take care of your needs. If they don't talk to you, because keep in mind, you're the person who is running the business. You know the business. They do not. They may be an SEO expert or a computer guy. They don't know your business. They may know you're a restaurant, but they don't know any of the other details about how you run, what your identity is, what you're trying to project, how you want to deal with customers. They don't know any of this stuff. So if you're going to hire anybody off the street to help you with this stuff, which is not a bad idea, if you don't have time or inclination to do it yourself, you need to be able to dedicate at least a little bit of time to synergize the actual work with that person. So they bring in their savvy and their knowledge on the subject of SEO and online presence, web development, things like that, any kind of information technology stuff. You're bringing in the business savvy and your desire as the owner. The two need to work together, not necessarily all the time, but the people who are doing this for you need to get some input from you to make sure everything is congruent with the way you are and what you do. And so this is one of the great things about these people that I was telling you about, this particular company, is they're wonderful people. They don't like to be on the camera, but they're wonderful people to deal with. And I'm in constant contact with them, because even though I do a lot of work for them, at the same time, the synergy is in place where if I need to know what kind of special they recommend that they want to, well, it's not just they recommend, what kind of special do they want to, for example, run in this next email marketing campaign we're going to do. A lot of times they ask me, what do you think? Should we give them 10%, 20%, whatever? I said, look, I don't know your margins. I don't know how much money you're making. I don't know what your costs are. I cannot tell you anything that would be any kind of relevant specifically to you. I can give you some idea based on other restaurants, but it's not you. So that's what I'm saying. You need to work with the business owners, or if you're a business owner, you're working with IT people, make sure that you have the synergy going, and then things are going to work out the way they're supposed to be working out. So each part brings their own. So yes, it's not a bad idea to farm stuff out to somebody who knows what they're doing, because you just don't have the time and you don't want to take time to learn. I mean, it's not rocket science. Anybody can do this. But it does take time, it does take effort, and it does take know-how. You need to know what you're doing. So that's why, if you do this, be willing to put a little bit of yourself to help them get the stuff done, so you get the positive results. And so everything else is just like David said. And so again, the book is SEO Help. It's available on Amazon, and you can go to davidamerland.com to get that. The companion tool is available online. You can download it and start running it right now if you wanted to. If you have any questions at all, feel free to leave it on Google Plus for me or David. And David's backlog is now about, I think, like 5 years, so he'll respond to it eventually. No, seriously, David always responds very quickly, and he's a absolute prince for responding the way he does. And the book is awesome. Definitely recommend it if you don't have it. And for those who have it, we'll see you next time when we do SEO Help number 16. Thank you for coming today. Thank you, David.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye-bye.